Solve the subtraction problems below. 370 centimeter minus 90 centimeter equals what? Let us solve this problem using mental math. So for mental math, we have to go for the compensation strategy. So in compensation strategy, we add 10 to both the numbers. For example, we will add 10 to 370 and also we will add plus 10 to 90. Okay, so when we add 10 to both the numbers, we get 370 plus 10 will become 380 centimeter, the same subtraction sign, and then 190 and plus 10 will become 100 centimeter equals what? We know that 380 minus 100 is 280 centimeter. So this is a mental math. The next problem is 800 milliliter minus 126 milliliter equals what? So let us write the problem vertically. 126 milliliter subtraction. The first column, when we subtract, we don't have enough ones on the top. That means there's a smaller number on the top than the 6 is a bigger number, whereas 0 is a smaller number, and we cannot subtract 6 from 0, right? We need some ones to subtract from. Since we don't have enough ones here on the top, let us borrow from the next column. But here also there is no enough tens, right? So there is no enough tens, 0 again here. So let's move on to the hundreds to borrow. So we can borrow from this 8. So when we borrow from this 8, the 8 will be unbundled and it will become a 7. So let us unbundle 8 and let us make 7 hundreds. So when we unbundle 8 and when become 7 hundreds, we will have 10 tens here. Okay? But we need 10 ones. So let us unbundle the 10 tens so that it will become 9 tens and we will get 10 ones this side. So what we have done so far is, before we subtracted, we need to find if we need any tens or hundreds that needs to be unbundled, so that there are enough ones for us to subtract. Okay? When we unbundle 110, we get 10 ones. And if we unbundle 100, we get 10 tens. So now we have unbundled and we have enough ones to subtract 6 from. So let us subtract 10 minus 6 is 4. And 9 minus 2 will become 7. And 7 minus 1 will become 6. And the same unit goes down. So milliliter. Kenny is driving from Los Angeles to San Diego. The total distance is about 175 kilometers. He has 86 kilometers left to drive. How many kilometers has he driven so far? Okay, so For this question, we need to do a tape diagram, a number sentence, and also a statement. First, let us see what information is given in the question. So, the character here is Kenny and he is driving from Los Angeles and he has to reach San Diego. So, the total distance given here is 175 kilometers. He is traveling, okay? He is driving for some distance that is not given and that is what we have to find. How much distance or kilometers left for him to reach San Diego is 86 kilometers, okay? So, what we know here is, we know the total as 75 kilometers and he has reached to some distance, and what is left is he has to drive 86 kilometers to reach San Diego. So what we have to find here is, we have to find how much he has driven so far, how many kilometers he has driven so far. So whenever we know one part, so this is the total, and whenever we know one part of the question, of the whole, and whenever we have to find the other part of the whole, so this is the whole, so this is the whole, and this is part, the other part we have to find. Whenever we know one part and we have to find the other part, we have to go for subtraction. So we have to model this problem with a tape diagram to figure out what we need to do to solve. Okay, so the missing part here is how much he has driven so far. That is what we have to find. Okay, what we know is the total distance that he has to travel from Los Angeles to San Diego. We also know that the kilometers left to drive is 86 kilometers. If we know the total or the whole, so if we know this total, and if we also know one part of the total or one part of the whole, to find the other part, we have to go for a subtraction number problem. Subtraction number sentence. The subtraction number sentence for this problem is the total 175 kilometer minus 86 kilometer equals what, or unknown, which is something that we have to find. Where this 175 is the total distance, 86 kilometer is the distance that he has to drive to finish or to reach San Diego. What we have to find here is the total amount of distance that he has driven so far, or the distance he has driven so far. Let us subtract 86 from 175 by standard algorithm. Standard algorithm is also vertical subtraction method. Before we start to subtract, we have to make sure we have enough ones and enough tens to subtract from. So first let us subtract the first column. 5 is a smaller number than 6. So we cannot subtract 6 from 5. So we have to unbundle this 7 tens. When we unbundle 7 tens, it becomes 6 tens. And here, this side, we borrow 110. When we borrow 110, we have 110 and 5 ones. 110 and 5 ones means 110 has 10 ones in it. 10 ones in it. And 5, this 5 ones also we have. So 10 ones and 5 ones, we will have 15 ones. Let me write 15 ones. 15 ones. The next step is to subtract 6 from 15. When I subtract 6 from 15, I get the answer 9. And then let us move on to the next column. And when I see here, I have a smaller number 6 on the top, which I cannot subtract 8 from 6. So I have to borrow from the next column. So that is the next column. I'm borrowing this 100. When I borrow this 100, it will become 0. And after unbundling the 100, it becomes 0, and I will borrow it to the next column. So I will have 16 tens. Now let me subtract this column. 16 minus 8. We know the value is 8. So the answer is kilometers. 89 kilometers. Finally, we have to do the statement. How many kilometers has he driven so far? Let's write the character's name in the front. So Kenny has driven 89 kilometers so far. Period. Let's move on to the next question. Esther measures rope. She measures a total of 548 centimeters of rope and cuts it into 2 pieces. The first piece is 152 centimeters long. How long is the second piece of rope? Part A question. Estimate the length of the second piece of rope by rounding. Okay, so let us see the information that is given in the question. She measures a total of 548 centimeters. So the total is 548 centimeters. So that is the total length. Of rope. And the first piece of rope is 152 centimeters. So let me draw the first piece of rope. So that is the first piece of rope. How long is the second piece of rope? So that is what we have to find. We don't know the length of the second piece of rope. So here we know the total, and also we know one part of the total. If we know the total and also one part, to find the other part, we have to do a subtraction number sentence. So let me show you in a number bond. So 548 is a total. We know the one part as 152 centimeters, and to find the other part we have to subtract the total from the part that we know to get the other part. So I'm doing the vertical method of subtraction or the standard algorithm. So 8 minus 2 is 6. 4 minus 5 I cannot subtract since 4 is a smaller number. So I have to unbundle the hundreds. So 500s will become 400s, and when I borrow 100 to the tens place, it will become 14 tens. So now let me subtract 14 tens minus 5 is the answer is 9, and then 4 minus 1, the answer is 3. So let me write the unit centimeter. So the answer is 396 centimeter. 396 is the actual length of the second rope. Okay? Actual length of the second piece of rope. So that is 396 centimeter. Now we have to estimate to the nearest 10 and also estimate to the nearest 100 and find out which is so precisely, which is very close, whether when we estimate by tens or whether we estimate by hundreds. First let us estimate by rounding to the nearest 10. So 548 centimeter is rounded to the nearest 10, which is 550 centimeter. And 152 centimeter, when rounded to the nearest 10, it becomes 150 centimeter. Now, when rounded to the nearest 100, 148 centimeter is rounded to 500, that is the nearest 100. And 152 centimeter, when rounded to the nearest 100, becomes 200 centimeter. The actual length of second piece of rope is 396 centimeter. Okay, now let us compare the estimate amount and the actual length of the second piece amount. So, which is closer to the actual amount? Yes. When we round to the nearest 100, it is 300. But when we round to the nearest 10, it is 400. So 400 is closer to the actual second piece rope. So the more precise value when doing an estimate we get by doing an estimate or rounding to the nearest 10. Rounding to the nearest 10 gives us a more precise actual length value. I know my answer 396 centimeter is reasonable because rounding to the nearest 10 was closer to the exact answer, and it was easy mental math. The estimate was only 4 centimeter away, so the estimate was 400 centimeter, and the actual answer was 396 centimeter. So if you see, the estimate is only 4 centimeters away from 396 centimeter, or the actual answer. So that's how I know my answer is reasonable. So comparing the answer with the estimate helps us to check whether what we have done or how we have calculated is correct or not.